Saul finally said what we were all thinking, okay? She was clocking Cynthia's tea from beginning to end. She looked that man dead in his face and let him know that he wasn't honest, he wasn't transparent, and in fact, he was just full of shit. And honestly, I was cheering her on the whole time. Y'all, this episode gave us drama from start to finish. Let's get into it, okay?
Kay Unscripted, no teens restricted. In this journey, watch our stories unfold.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. This is Kay Unscripted. I am your girl Kay, and today we're breaking down Love Island USA Season 8 Episode 14. Now, before we get into this recap, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who just subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate your support, and to those who have already subscribed, thank you for tuning in every day to listen to my recaps. But if you're here, you're new, and you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and take a moment to do so. Like this video, comment, and share it with a friend. Now let's talk about this episode. So it's the aftermath of the recoupling. Saul and Caleb, they're walking away together, and she's letting him know that she is so disappointed. And Caleb is also saying that for him, he's just telling himself that everything happens for a reason. She's saying how stupid she feels, and Caleb's like, same, because they're in the same situation, and I feel like they both were just blindsided by the decisions that were made. But also, while I feel bad for them, there were signs, okay? Now, she's saying in her confessional that it was silly of her to not explore other connections because she was believing Sincere when he said there's open communication and he wants words of affirmation, all of that, but he doesn't hold himself to that same standard. Meanwhile, Sincere's with Melanie, hugging up on her, telling her how much he missed her and just how happy he is with her. He's also telling her, oh, it's going to take more than someone coming in here with a pretty face to make me pick them over you. And I was just like, Sincere, please shut up, because you've been playing in both of these ladies' faces, okay? And I really hated that it came down to Sincere having to pick between those two women. And I just feel like if these girls sat down with each other and got down to business, he would have been left single, okay? Now, Melanie asks if he still wants to explore with Saul, and he says he doesn't want to. He's done with that, and it was always Melanie. So it was always Melanie, right? So then why were you saying all the things that you were saying to Saul, making her believe that she was the one you wanted? And that leads me to believe that Sincere, he wanted Melanie to feel what it felt like to him when she was playing in his face earlier on with the whole Corbin and Caleb situation. He wanted to teach Melanie a lesson, and that's all it was about. But Melanie's just happy that she's back with her guy. He tells her that moving forward, it's open, honest, and indifferent. But we all know he's incapable of doing either one of them, okay? Now, Mr. Thirsty and Mrs. Thirsty have a chat. You all know who I'm talking about, Kenzie and Corbin, right? She's like, oh, are you so happy that I didn't tell anyone about the kiss? And he's like, yeah, I'm so happy you told no one. You kept your word. But even if you did, F it anyways, right? So then she's like, oh, well, by the way, I did tell Jen, but I knew she wasn't going to tell anyone. So Corny and Clownsy, that's the new names. That is the new names, okay? Corny and Clownsy are getting on my final nerve. I am tired of seeing these two on my screen. Clownsy is telling Corny that Caleb looked like he was about to cry. Corny's like, well, I don't care. That's a you and him problem. I'm just happy to be back with my girl. Just trifling. Anaya and Casey talk about the letters. He said that he's not really an emotional person, but the letters definitely had him in his feelings. She also said that at one point she felt so bad because she didn't like seeing him sad, and they both agreed that writing the letter made it easier for them to express what they needed to each other, because prior to that everything was just being misconstrued, right? Now Clownsy decides that she needs to explain herself to Caleb, And the first thing she says to him is that this isn't how I wanted it to go. First of all, if I were Caleb, I would have kindly declined to have any kind of conversation with Clownsy, okay? And I was just like, Clownsy, please, okay? This is exactly how you wanted things to be. So stop. You're getting exactly what you wanted, okay? She's telling him that everything she said to him, she meant it, and just how hard making the decision was, but it came down to who she had the strongest connection with. Now, I hope we get to have movie night on this season, and I hope Corbin stays long enough to, not Corbin, I hope Caleb, well, I hope they both stay long enough to get to that point so she can just get exposed, okay? Now, Caleb said he was caught by surprise, and you know what, it's his bad because he put all of his eggs in her basket when she clearly didn't deserve to have any eggs in her basket to begin with, okay? The poor guy thought he was going to be endgame with her because clearly she was telling him that she wanted it to be them, and then she had the audacity to ask this man to be friends. Now, I feel like she wants to keep Caleb in close proximity in case things go sour with she and Cornball, okay? Anyways, Caleb said in the nicest way that he doesn't want to be friends with her, and I agree. Cut it off. We do see each of the couples talking about their letters, and really and truly there wasn't really anything worth talking about, so we're just going to move on. The Islanders head to bed, and we do see Cornball and Clownsy. She was definitely stroking his hot dog. Meanwhile, Jen and Gabriel had me so disgusted because I'm like, did y'all forget that there are cameras up in there? Like, what is happening? Anyways, it's the next day, and we see the first chat for the day between Cornball, Bryce, and Insincere, okay? Insincere wants to know how to approach Saul, and so Bryce is telling him word for word what to say to Saul when he approaches her, right? Cornball asks him if he still has feelings for Saul, or was it just something in the moment? And watch how he suddenly said, oh, it was just something he was feeling in the moment. Now, all of a sudden, it was in the moment, but that's not what you were saying before, though. So Bryce is telling him that she's probably feeling like she was led on, and she absolutely was being led on by Insincere. Insincere is also saying that he and Melanie talked and have set boundaries with each other, and we then see the guys trying to convince him that he made the right decision. We then see Jen and Saul talking. Saul says that she feels like they came in too late, okay? Because everyone and their mama is closed off. And I said, not their mama. She was pissed, okay? So Jen tells her, look girl, you definitely dodged a bullet. And baby Saul said, you're right, plus he's shot. And I said, yes, Saul. Drag his shot behind. Because who does Insincere think he is, okay? Jen tells her, this guy is full of shit and his niceness is pretty much just a facade. And I said, yes, Jen, clock him. Saul then says that he was doing all these nice gestures, but she doesn't feel like he was being real. And truly, all she wanted was for him to be honest. She also said that realistically, she doesn't see any romantic connection between her and Caleb. So then we move on to Caleb and Zach's chat, where Zach is telling him that this is the time for him to explore other connections. Caleb said that he's kind of struggling because he's never been the one to just turn off feelings, and I felt so bad for him because he did really genuinely like Clownsy and developed real feelings for her, you could tell, okay? Zach asked how he feels about being in a couple with Saul, and he said, well, she's T, her body's T, face T, personality T. She's going to speak her mind, and child, they were both checking her out just as she was walking by and they were having their conversation. But y'all, did y'all peep how Zach said to Caleb, well, pull all of the girls for chats today, even Kada? And I said, wait a minute, not Zach wanting to get out of his couple with Kada. What is happening? Anyways, Insincere pulls Saul for a chat. And he's like, well, how are you feeling? He wasn't ready for what was about to come upon him, okay? Baby, she lit up his behind, okay? She said, listen, I just don't feel like you're an honest person, because at the end of the day, if you say you have feelings for someone, just say that, okay? Because from where I'm looking, it's giving two-faced. You say one thing, you do another, and I'm not your mama. I'm not about to spank you, so why are you lying, okay? Furthermore, you're full of shit. You piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, and child, all he had to say was, yeah. Then he's going to open his mouth and say, oh, none of it was fake, but I am sorry because I know someone was going to get hurt. Oh, I didn't want to lose the chemistry we had because we did have it, right? And then he's going to say that when they became a couple, he wasn't ready to leave Melanie at that time, but he should have been more honest. So Saul said to him that if she was always in the back of his mind, he should have just said that to her, because you had her thinking that you were going to be with her. And we should have known from the minute he said Saul was a ball of fresh air that he was full of shit, okay? Saul told him that had he said that, she wouldn't have gotten her hopes up and she would have explored other people. And she's not mad that they had their little connection going. She's upset that he wasn't honest about it. Now, child, I hope Sincere gets exposed too, okay? Movie night, expose him. He tells her, look, everything you're calling me out on is true. And she said, oh, really? But you talk about how you're so honest and truthful, but you're full of shit. And then he's going to open his mouth and say, oh, I'm the only bad person here. She's like, well, what did I do? What did I do? Besides trying to get to know people who are closed off, what did I do? Oh, he couldn't stand the heat. Okay, he couldn't stand it. So he tried to throw little things out there that didn't make any sense. It didn't land at all. So then he now goes to Melanie and he's filling her in about the chat with Saul. Now Melanie, who knows that Insincere has the tendencies to lie, asks him to be honest with her. And he's telling her that Saul said a lot of F-bombs and she was just blowing steam up his behind, right? Still lying and not telling her what the real conversation was between them. So then we see Jen and Saul on the dock, right? She's filling in Jen on her conversation with Sincere and how he admitted that he should have been more truthful and how he said she had things to work on and that she wasn't an angel. So Jen was like, yeah, no, he should have been honest and open. And now, while I'm not the hugest fan of Jen, I really like how she stands up for Saul. She stands on business. She calls him out and lets him know that he's full of shit. Okay, we've seen her do that before. Then we zoom back to the conversation between Insincere and Melanie. She's saying that she kind of understands where Saul is coming from because he does things to make you feel like he's into you. And then she herself was also feeling like F him, okay? And he's like, right. Okay, Sincere, oh my God, he pissed me off so bad. You could have just been honest with her by letting her know that you were still missing Melanie. That's all she wanted, okay? But he was trying to give Saul a chance, is what he said. The lies just kept coming, okay? And like I said, if Melanie had just sat with Saul, she would have known the real tea. So then we get back to the conversation between Jen and Saul, and Jen's like, for me, it's Melanie, because you know he's lied to you and Saul. Now you're back with him and he's probably going to lie to you again. And I am like, clock him, girl, clock him, okay? Meanwhile, Zach and Bryce aren't beating the allegations that they want each other so bad, because why was he stretching Bryce's feet like that? Anyways, now that he's done canoodling with Zach, okay, he's chatting with his current couple, Trinity. She wants to know what he wants out of this. He said he wants a partner. He also feels like things are amazing between them and he just wants someone he could just talk to. And honestly, the rest of the chat didn't make any kind of sense to me. The conversations just lack a lot of substance, in my humble opinion. Then we see Caleb and Saul checking with each other, and since they're in similar situations, they decide to get to know each other better. She shares that she's been single for 3.5 years and has been more so of a serial dater. She then asks him what his typical date would be, and he said once he's into a girl, he would probably pick her up and drive her to go watch the sunset. Pretty romantic, right? Then we see Sincere and Melanie just kissing on each other right in Saul's face, and I felt so bad for her yet again, right? Now we get to later on in the evening, the Islanders are getting ready for the night. We see Insincere being more honest with the guys than he has been with Melanie, okay? But anyways, everyone gets downstairs. Well, the girls get downstairs. Caleb makes a toast, and then we see Gabe pull Jen for a chat. He lets her know that he's happy, and of course he is happy because he got a slushie from her, okay? Anyways, him saying how he feels seemed to look like a bit of a surprise to Jen because clearly she's just down to have a good time, nothing more, right? She says that they have a lot more in common with each other, and they both say that they do see themselves with each other. They don't see themselves with anyone else. And I said duh, because nobody else wants y'all anyways. Saul now sits with Bryce and Casey. They're checking on her to see how she's doing. She's saying that she feels like she's a bit restricted when it comes to pulling the guys for chats because everyone is so closed off with their couple. Casey asks her what can they do so that she doesn't feel that way, and she pretty much says that there's a lot of cliques in the villa and she just feels left out. She doesn't feel like she can talk to any of the guys or anyone at that, right? So then Casey's like, well, what do you want, Saul? What do you want, right? Bryce was like, well, she wants to feel seen. She wants to feel wanted. And Saul was like, thank you, Bryce. And I was just like, Casey, come on. That was kind of stupid of you to ask because she just explained how she's been feeling, how she's felt left out this entire time. So that was really dumb of you to ask that, right? Anyways, we then see Ariana walking into the villa, and I loved her outfit. I love all of her outfits. And that bob was bobbing, okay? She asked all of them to gather at the fire pit because she has news, and everyone started to panic. She then tells them that America has been voting for their favorite couple, and she's about to reveal the 4 couples that are safe. And she went in no particular order. They were Trinity and Bryce, Naya and Casey, Kida and Zach, and lastly it was Sincere and Melanie. Now the remaining couples separate, girls on one side, boys on the other side. However, she said that 1 boy and 1 girl will be leaving the villa, and that decision will be made by the fellow Islanders that are safe. The boys will decide which girl would be dumped from the island, and likewise the girls will decide which boy they would like to dump from the island. Now let's get into it, right? Sincere gives a speech for the guys, and you could tell that this vote was highly influenced by him. He said that they decided to send Saul home, and of course he wants that because he doesn't want the truth to come out about him, okay? Now the girls, it's their turn to decide who they would like to send home. They share that they decided to dump Gabriel from the island because he's looking for the next best thing, and that speech was delivered by Melanie. Now, from the way she was speaking, we all thought it was Cornball, right? But it was actually Gabriel. The guys look clearly pissed by the girls' decision, but Saul shares that they're taking her out of her misery because she feels like it's couples island and everyone was just so closed off, so she's happy to go home. Now after this episode, I am more convinced than ever that Saul deserved so much better. She didn't deserve to go home at all, right? Saul and Gabriel are heading home, and the guys are clearly not happy with the girls' decision. And if the tension at that fire pit is any indication, the next episode is about to be explosive. But now I need to hear from y'all. Do you think Sincere intentionally played both Melanie and Saul, or do you think he was genuinely confused between them? Did the Islanders make the right decision sending Saul and Gabriel home? And be honest, if Melanie and Saul sat down and compared everything Sincere told them, Would he survive that conversation? Drop all of your thoughts in the comments because you already know I'm going to be down there reading every single one. I haven't heard from y'all yet, but I'm still waiting. I'm waiting, okay? Now, if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.